All right, greetings again here from the United Soccer Coaching Convention. Listen, we have a special guest, all right? Angie Eliason, the COO of United Soccer Coaches. All right, listen, of the convention here. This is insane, okay? We've been walking around and seeing all of these people. This is like the belly of the beast, if you will, when it comes to American soccer. There are track suits as far as the eye can see. But give us a little context in terms of how much this has grown over the years and what people can hope to see if and when they come to a United Soccer Coaches Convention.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
You're
there,
welcome.
Alexi. This is great. The show has grown greatly. The first one was in 1941.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know how many attendees we had, but we have grown, obviously, quite massively. It's so exciting to be on the West Coast. We haven't been out here only twice since 1994. The association was founded on the East Coast, so the heart of the membership is there, but we're growing, and we would love to have anyone who hasn't been here come out and see the show. We're turning a little bit into some culture and lifestyle things. We really want to hit up the under 40 coach in the United States and abroad. So you'll see some new things here. Graffiti artists, I have a live tattoo artist, permanent tattoos going on.
State of the Union tattoos? Maybe. We'll see how the night goes, right? Okay.
We got a DJ, a bunch of different things to just generate some more fun and celebrate the game.
How many booths? How many are you looking at this year?
Yeah, we got just a little over 300.
Oh my goodness! All right.
Vendors. We have Media Row, 30. First time the whole Media Row has been full. Super exciting. So the sky is the limit right now.
I know Alexi's going to be part of a panel later on. How do you decide who you allow on stage? What's that vetting process like?
You know, David, we're honored to have Lexi and the rest of the panelists today. We're very excited about it, and anyone that's going to help grow the game, our doors are open for them.
To be fair, they let Ronaldo also host.
So no
panels.
vetting process.
There's no vetting process. So as you wander around today, I mean, look, this is wonderful. You're kind of like a proud mama in terms of what's happening here, but you got to be putting out some fires. So far, so good, you've said, but any that you anticipate or anything behind the scenes that is happening that you could fill our listeners and watchers in?
No major fires,
okay.
So that's good, right? There's always small fires in an event like this. Behind the scenes, unfortunately, one of our staff members' grandfather passed away and had to leave, so we're putting out staffing fires because we need help, but nothing to worry about. No one will notice any difference. You know, just the usual. Somebody thinks MC is too excited.
You got bathrooms, you got food. Last night I was telling Mosse, when you open it up traditionally, you opened it up last night, and it's free beer, right?
Free beer.
I strategically neglected to tell David about that situation. He is none happy about it. So
sorry.
Over the years that you've been involved with this event, talk to me about the growth of women's soccer and how much the women's game has increasingly become a bigger and bigger part of this event.
Yeah, definitely. It's growing. We have some amazing female presenters. There's obviously a focus when we're deciding who's going to fill the program. You know, there used to be maybe one or two presentations, nobody on the field. Now we make sure, you know, at least 30 to 40% of those are being taught by females. We have some exciting ones here. Laura Harvey was on the field the other night to a sellout crowd. Marguerite from UCLA, excuse me. She's kind of the rock star of the female part of our association right now. Tori Penzo, we also do a small event for the referees. Tori ref the Women's World Cup final, first American. So yeah, it's great. We're just hoping to keep it going.
Angie Eliason, the COO of United Soccer Coaches Convention. Well, first off, thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us in the door. For those folks that are watching the State of the Union at home, we just stand up and show what's going on here. Now, listen, this might be a stab in the dark here, but I am going to guess that Adidas might have something to do with the convention here. Come on, these pants are awesome. Seriously, give the folks, look at this. Look at this. My goodness, this is just phenomenal. My goodness, there we go. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh my. I want a pair of those pants. So listen, Adidas got their plug and more on the State of the Union. My goodness. All right, listen. You got lots of work to do. Like I said, things to do. Thank you again for having us, and good luck for the next few days here with the convention and going forward to future conventions.
Thank you, Alexi.
Thank you. Joining us now, the great Landon Donovan. Thank you for coming on the pod here.
My pleasure.
Welcome. Happy New Year to you. You look wonderful. You look rested.
You ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes, sure.
You know, Larry David says after like 3 days you can't say Happy New Year anymore.
David says, okay.
So, you know, it's a little late. It's January 8th.
I want you to have a good 2024.
Well, then you should have said that.
Okay. All right. Listen. Let's don't bore us. Get to the chorus, okay? So I'm going to go straight to this summer, okay? You, by the way, we all have a big summer. You have by the way, have a very big summer. You are heading over to Germany.
I am.
Wiedersehen, my friend. You are going back to a place actually where you plied your trade many, many years ago. And you will be covering, well, the whole summer, but certainly when it comes to the Euros over there, you will be in country over there in Germany for the Euros. We look forward to that. But I don't want to talk about that right now. Okay. I want to talk about the U.S. men's national team, and specifically this summer. Yeah. What does this U.S. men's national team this summer have to do, being led by Gregg Berhalter, who we know is on his second chance, tight leash pretty much, I would think. What do they have to do to make you believe that this is a team that is heading in the right direction relative to 2024?
I think we probably agree on this. This is a big summer for the U.S. team. The first 4 years with Gregg, lots and lots of young players, new players developing, and we talked a lot in Qatar about, you know, at the time it was should Gregg stay, should Gregg go, and I said at the time I think Gregg should stay. I think this team needs continuity and then keep building. Now they've had time to stay together. They know each other. When every one of those guys comes into camp now, they know the expectations. They know the way Gregg wants to play. And now you got to put it on the field and do it. And there's only so many opportunities before 2026 to play in real games. No qualifying. So this is really it. I mean, this is really it. And we need to see really good performances, and it's going to be against really good teams. Results you can't always control, right? Things happen, but you should be able to look at it, feel it, sense it, and go, oh, that team's ready for 2026.
And it's better. It's improved. All these,
that's right.
Because you were talking about the young players that they had. I mean, some of these players were teenagers, and as you know, maybe better than anybody, you are a very different player and person as a teenager than you are even 4 years later. And so they will have matured both in terms of their play and just in terms of who they are as people, and that can manifest on the field.
But you know what the key is, Lex, is they are maturing together. So I'll give you, I don't know your trajectory with World Cups and what the roster makeup was, but for me in 2002, it was me and DeMarcus, right. Young kids. Everyone else was a senior player. Fast forward to 2006, we were kind of quote-unquote veterans. There were some guys still left over, but we were some of the older guys, and we weren't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that, and we suffered because of it. In 2010, we had a really veteran team across the board. A lot of us had grown up together. So the key is that this team is growing up together. Mm-hmm. Christian's grown up with Gio, with Weah, with Eunice, with all these guys are Weston. They're all growing up together, minus just a couple, Tim Ream maybe and a few others. But most of them have played together, and now they're mature together, and I think that's a huge advantage.
Landon, you questioned Pulisic's decision to go to AC Milan. You suggested you should come to the Galaxy instead. He's been one of the best players in Serie A. I was going to say, you must be tremendously embarrassed by that.
If you look back and listen to what you said.
No. Okay. Listen, in fairness, first of all, we still have a long way to the World Cup, right? A lot of things can change. But Christian is, from day one, cemented himself there and shown that he deserves to be a starter and a key player. And he's shown it, game after game. And he knows when you're playing in Europe, you go 3 or 4 games in a row without playing well, and you might be on the bench for a while. But he is so much more mature from his time, I think, at Chelsea especially, and just being thrown into the fire there. And now he's mature. He knows what this is all about. He can play the game a little bit. He knows how to manage himself, but then also be consistent. And I think that's what he's shown. So listen, if he stays on this path, of course, it was a no-brainer. He should have been in Milan. If knock on wood, hopefully things don't go wrong, but if things go wrong, he's got to make sure, and it goes with everybody playing in the World Cup, that you are playing leading up to the World Cup. We said it last time before Qatar, certain guys We had goalkeepers who weren't playing. You have to be playing leading up to the World Cup.
But as a follow-up, you saw with the Miles Robinson discourse over the last week, there still is this belief that if you're an ambitious player and you want to get better, you have to go to Europe. How much does that perception bother you?
I just think every individual is different, right? You can make the case now that playing in MLS is as competitive or more competitive than Liga MX. Guys like Brandon Vasquez and Cade Cowell just went to Liga MX to play, right? So everybody has different desires, dreams, hopes. You know, I'm guessing Miles probably wanted to consider or try the opportunity to go to Europe, but MLS teams are really good too, and he knows he's going to be probably playing every minute of every game for 2 years, and that's crucial. If you go somewhere and you're like Pepe, right, who went before Qatar and wasn't playing, and maybe you get left off a roster, right? So the key for these guys is you need to be playing as many minutes as possible, as often as possible, in my opinion.
Well, just to follow up on the Pulisic thing, and not to defend you because you don't need defending, but had Christian Pulisic taken you up on your recommendation and gone to the LA Galaxy, let's say starred for the LA Galaxy, won an MLS Cup, and was kicking it at a high level, he still could be the same player that he is today. So that pathway, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't star and that you can't translate that stardom to being the best version of yourself with the national team. Is that fair?
I believe that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I personally believe that because that was me. But I would say every player is different, too. There are probably some guys who, like, you need to put them into a hard environment so they learn and grow and get better. Christian could be playing AYSO soccer for the next 2 years, and he'll still be our best player at the World Cup because he's got that fire and that drive, and he's a damn good player. So for him, it doesn't matter as much. He just needs to be playing, is my opinion.
So we mentioned you have a wonderful summer coming up here, and we talked a little bit about the U.S. men's national team and the Copa America. Anything from a Euros perspective that you're looking forward to as you head over in your German adventure?
This tournament is actually, you know, a lot of people who know the game well say this is the best actual soccer tournament in the world. And then people go, well, what about the World Cup? The problem with the World Cup is it gets diluted because there's teams who are just not as good. This is quite literally 16 of the best teams in the world all competing against each other. And that's unique. In a World Cup, especially now with the expanded World Cup, you're going to have a lot of teams there who are going to lose 4, 5, 6-0 to a lot of top teams. The Euros isn't like that. So every game is really intense, really competitive, and that makes it exciting. There's so many storylines because majority of those players play against each other, with each other, all throughout Europe in different leagues, and I can't wait. I think I'm as excited about this as I was going to Qatar, to be honest.
Last question before we let you go. The best thing about American soccer and the worst thing about American soccer?
I mean, that's a big question.
I know, exactly. Could be on the field, could be off the field, could be big thing, little thing.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble here, so I tend to do that
here,
when
man,
I speak.
we get in trouble.
When I talk to you, I get in trouble.
Show.
Best thing about American soccer is, I think it's diversity. Worst thing about American soccer is probably the fractured landscape, especially the fractured youth landscape.
See, there you go. You're not going to get in trouble for that.
I'm canceled, baby.
Ah, you're good. You're uncancelable.
That's not
the
true.
great Landon Donovan, my friends. We're going to head up and do a panel here later on.
Yeah,
so thank you for coming in. It's good to see you, and thanks for coming on the pod.
Great talk, Mosse. Great talk, bud.
Thank you very much.
It was riveting as always.
All right, Mosse. You know the hits keep coming, right? Big stars, big legends, and Carli Lloyd. She joins us here, our good friend and colleague, Carli Lloyd. Happy New Year to you.
Happy
All right.
New Year
Welcome
to
to
you both.
Anaheim. Have you ever been to Anaheim before?
I have.
You have?
Yep.
Pretty exciting, huh?
Very exciting, yeah.
Very cosmopolitan here.
Yep.
So listen, we've been talking to everybody here about a lot of different things. And we are on a panel later on. You, Maurice Edu, let's see who else, Landon Donovan, Warren Barton, talking about this upcoming year. And certainly this summer from a Fox perspective is going to be huge. You, my friend, have taken to broadcasting like a duck to water, all right? And it makes me incredibly happy and proud. As I said, the worst part of your job is that you have to sit next to me, all right? But you're getting through that. As you look at this next year, especially this summer with Copa America and the Euros, the Olympics with the women's national team, a new a new women's coach, all of these different things. Give me some things that stand out in terms of your excitement level when it comes to 2024.
It's massive. I mean, I think I retired at a very good time in the world of soccer here. I finish. We've got the Men's World Cup, Women's World Cup, which I took part of. My first 2 big TV gigs with Fox. And then we're rolling into Copa America, Euros, Olympics, and then 2026 is obviously going to be massive. But I think that there's just so much on the horizon. The women's team is obviously resetting with new coach, Emma Hayes. Who's going to come in and I think do a phenomenal job. And then on the men's side, you've got this golden generation that did do well at the Men's World Cup. And I think the expectations of them doing well in Copa America is high. And it's going to be even higher in 2026. So from a fan base, I mean, it's soccer 24/7, and it's just going to be purely amazing.
You mentioned Emma Hayes. Everyone seems to think that was a great hire. It sounds like you're on that page too. How important is the Olympics this summer for the U.S. women to do well and to sort of halt this narrative that it's a country that's regressing a little bit, that the rest of the world is caught up?
I think in this particular timing for the women's national team, Emma Hayes is the perfect candidate. She is the most complete soccer coach, I think, in the women's game. I got to play for her in 2009 in the WPS that folded. Every time I see Emma, and we always, get together at random events, we both always talk about that moment in Chicago together, because Emma was coaching our team that had a lot of personalities. On paper, we were meant to probably win the championship, and we didn't. We actually did pretty poorly. It was my first year at a club environment. And so I think we both learned a lot about ourselves. And I think, Emma has always gone back to that moment of that moment really making her into the coach that she is today, of how to manage big personalities, how to have those tough conversations. And I think that from a man managing standpoint, and being able to get everybody on board from staff and players, she's definitely the one to be able to do the job. So I think that it's great. I think this Olympics going in this summer, let's be honest, I don't think they're too focused on that. I mean, she's not coming in until, what June, I think, to coach the team. As a player, that still wouldn't change my perspective. I'd still want to go in and do the best that I could and try to help the team win. But I think this is a long-term build to 2027, and it's going to take some time to get all the pieces together.
I hear Carli Lloyd being very positive about this, Mosse. This seems like she is very, very excited.
I can be
that.
positive.
No, listen. I know.
We both can, right?
Well, speaking of positive things or negative things, I don't know. You ever heard of this, Mosse? You might have to help us out here. This guy, Joey Barton. You ever heard of Joey Barton?
I am familiar with him.
So evidently, Wikipedia tells me that he's a former player and manager, English guy over there. He's been shooting his mouth off over there in terms of women broadcasters, saying that they should not be commenting on the men's game. Now look, we here at Fox are incredibly proud. We just care that you're good. We don't care, man, woman, it really doesn't matter, okay? But at Fox, when you look at Annie Luco, Kelly Smith, Ali Wagner, Jackie Oatley, Lori Lindsay, the list goes on and on and on, and now we have Carli Lloyd. What would you say to this Mr. Barton?
Well, first of all, I've never heard of the name Joey Barton until he started opening his mouth about controversial statements. So that should say a lot about the guy, number one. Number two, I have played against, worked with all of those ladies that you mentioned, and they are highly intelligent. They know the game. They're prepared. They work hard. And the last time I checked, it's the same game, same amount of players, men, women's side. Same rules, same dimensions, same ball. We've got the same everything. So if you're good at your job, it shouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman commentating on the men's game or the women's game. And, I think Fox Sports has done an unbelievable job of bringing in some of the best talent. And the camaraderie and the people that we have around just constantly make each other better. So I think that he should maybe stick to something else.
Can we hop back to the U.S. women for 1 second? So you said it's a long-term build. So I'm wondering for these Olympics, would you like to see a younger squad? I know some veterans retired recently, but there are some like Alex Morgan who still want to be part of that mix. Do you think that perhaps the right way to go for the Olympics is to bring a younger squad and leave some of the veterans out?
I do. And, you know, if I were kind of in that timing of the situation when Vlatko, they, you know, let Vlatko go, however you want to interpret that, and we're waiting for the hiring of the next coach, man, I would have been treating those friendly games like they were World Cup finals, banging in goals, doing anything possible to prove to the next coach coming in, hey, even though I'm a little bit older here, I still got game and you're going to still need me. But several of those players, older veteran players, didn't make a good case for themselves. So it's made Emma's job and Twyla's job easy, or easier, to perhaps leave some of those players off the roster in that December camp. And I think that it's going to be a very, very tough and challenging situation for a lot of those players to get back onto the roster. But I do think that if you're good enough to be there, no matter your age, and you've proven it day in and day out, of course you should be there. But I do think that they're going to be looking to go with a younger generation.
A few more questions before we let you go. You earlier had talked about the growth process of either a player or a coach, and you're not the same person or player that you were when you started out, and you grow. Now, you mentioned you've already worked a couple of World Cups for us under your belt. As I said, you're incredible at what you do. But if you're out there, give people a little peek behind the curtain in how you think already, even in a short period of time, relatively short period of time, you've changed the way you go about broadcasting.
I remember the first broadcasting I did in studio in LA, and I think it was a friendly game with the women's national team. And, you know, I was afraid to talk about things. I was afraid to perhaps speak my mind and say my opinion. TV wants people that are going to come on, and the audience wants to listen to people that are going to give opinions other than what they think that the political correctness is that they're going to say. So I think with each time I've gotten on TV, and granted, I've been removed from the team now for 2 years, so it's made it a little bit better. And I was really passionate. You know, I am super passionate, super supportive of the women's national team. I wore that shirt and jersey proudly for 17 years. I would do anything for the program. I want to see the program succeed. I want to see it get better. And sometimes you need that blunt honesty to make change. And, you know, I think that I've come into my shell in that bit of just being confident enough to state what I'm seeing and feeling and what I've experienced throughout my years with the team. And with that, you know, comes some people that are going to have a lot to say, but it's no different than my playing career. So I think that the transition into that is just understanding that I'm going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm always going to be my most authentic self that's going to bring honesty. And, yeah, I just want to see the program get better.
Well, for what it's worth, the amount of people that come up to me and want to talk about you and want to pass on to you how much they appreciate that, for lack of a better word, fearlessness that you are bringing. Whatever you're doing, keep doing, because it's working, and it's translating to the folks out there. And as you said, people don't have to agree, okay? But ultimately, you hope that they're respecting the fact that they are watching somebody who is being honest and open and fearless about the things that they are saying. Mosse, anything for Carli before we go?
Congratulations on Gotham FC, and I know you worked as a broadcaster there. How was that experience and having your team win the title?
It was good. I mean, I think what Gotham's done is they've laid the blueprint of what you can do to turn an entire season around, you know, ending dead last to then having to spend more money. I mean, money is going to get you things. Bringing in a new coach, new coaching staff, new players. They were all bought into the system, the culture, the winning mentality they have, and it was really great to see. You know, I think that the club's been through a lot. I've obviously experienced a lot with Sky Blue, Gotham over the years, and to see it flourish and see the team flourish was really great to see.
Last question before you go. For those that don't know, Carli is a mother of many. How are the chicks doing? For those that don't know, you and your husband have been raising chicks over the last year, let's say. How are they doing? Are they still alive? Are they flourishing? Are you done with them? What's the deal?
Oh, no. They are flourishing. We've got 9 of them. I go out there every day. I do my daily routine of, kind of cleaning up the poop. That's why my forearms have been getting really sore. I've had to stretch my arms out a lot these days. But no, I mean, just never would have thought I'd love chickens, but I do. They're very therapeutic. It kind of gets me away from thinking about things and kind of just immerses myself in nature. And yeah, they're producing, our girls are producing, 6 to 8 eggs a day.
Well, listen.
And they're from Michigan.
I know, of course they are. Well, they're good chicks from Michigan. Look, if you are in front of the camera or if you are picking up poop, it doesn't matter. You do it with aplomb. We are so privileged to have you on the show. From a personal perspective, I enjoy working with you so much, and I'm so glad that you have come into our life from a soccer perspective, from a Fox perspective. And so onward and up. Are you ready to light this candle again this summer?
Here we go.
All right, let's
summer.
do it. The great Carli Lloyd. All right, joining us now on the State of the Union podcast, Maurice Edu. Hey, Mo, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. This is a nice, we were just talking about families and kids. This is a nice little escape from the reality that is home for me now.
Now, by the way, you live in Las Vegas, but you just grew up down the road here in Fontana, right? Is that true?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
We're in your neck of the woods here. For those that don't know, Maurice Edu, colleague, friend, many years here on Fox. You see him, you hear him. I guess you love him. Some people out there. All right, my friend, we're talking about American soccer, and I want to start big, and then maybe we'll go into a little bit more detail here. But 2024, big year, obviously from a Fox perspective with Copa America and the Euros this summer. But I think also for a U.S. men's national team perspective, we're going to see them in the Copa America. What do you, and if you look into Mo's crystal ball, what's the ideal for this U.S. men's national team coming out of the Copa America this summer for Gregg Berhalter and this group now that is 2 years older from when we saw them in Qatar in the World Cup?
Result-wise or just
in general? I mean, it might even be a feel. It might even have nothing to do necessarily specifically with results, but a feel. What does that look like? Because I think everybody's waiting for this moment or this positive feeling for us to believe that it's heading in the right direction. Well, how does that manifest? What does it look like?
I think Copa America is the perfect stage for this moment that we're trying to describe to happen, because for so long we'd always compare the U.S. men's national team to Mexico. And how do we stack up against Mexico? That was an indication of, are we trending upwards, are we trending downwards? We've surpassed Mexico. In this current state, this current team, this current Mexican roster that they have right now, we're past them. So the biggest test for us now is Copa America. I think we look at Nations League, we won that twice now, and that's great. That's a step in the right direction. But I think since the World Cup, Copa America has been the one tournament that we've been anticipating, because we're going to get a chance to play. Now we have the groups have been laid out. We're going to play against Uruguay, right, in our group stage. I think that's going to be a great matchup. Uruguay is their second right now, I think, in qualifying in Common Bowl. They have a lot of young players that are doing well, that are having success. So the best case scenario for me would be us winning the tournament.
Sure.
Would be us playing Argentina and Miami in the final. But ultimately, I want to walk away from this tournament saying this group of players collectively know how to win a big game. They did well. I would say they did well in the World Cup, getting out of the group, but then they came up against a Netherlands team that I thought they could beat. Didn't happen for them. But from that loss, you gain that experience of playing on a big stage against a quality opponent. Now they're getting a chance to face some more quality opponents, and I hope that we walk away from this tournament saying that, one, Gregg Berhalter has molded this team into a team that identity gets thrown out there a lot, but more so, I just want to believe that this team can go up against anyone and feel comfortable that they can win that game.
A lot of people, including Alexi, think that Berhalter needs a deep run this summer to validate the decision to bring him back as coach. If the U.S. were to go out early, that Berhalter could actually be in some trouble. Is that your sense? Do you think that's sort of a make-or-break tournament for Gregg Berhalter?
It's the biggest test before the World Cup, isn't it? And there has to be pressure on everyone and for us to have success. From the player standpoint, if you come into a camp, you don't do well, there should be pressure on you that then if you do get brought into another camp, that that pressure is amplified, or what you're doing at your club team, that should matter in terms of whether or not you get called in a camp. Gregg has to be assessed as well, right? And I don't think that they made the hire with the thought that they're planning to drop him, but I think if we don't get out of the group stage and it's a disastrous performance and we just look like we're completely out of sorts, the pressure is ramped up. I do think that the Federation hired Gregg with the mindset that, one, the players wanted him back. The Federation felt comfortable and they were pleased with what he did during the World Cup in 22. So I do think that there should be pressure. And I think barring some kind of incredible disaster, Gregg will be leading this team in the World Cup.
Let's shift to MLS. You were once Rookie of the Year. This is a league
long time ago.
I know, but this is a league that kind of lives within us, and it has grown almost to 30 years now. Going to be at 30 teams and all that. So I think when I'm asking you this question, it's relative to 26. I know we're going to talk a lot about 24 this summer and everything, but relative to 26, what if you could, press a button or anything? What are some of the things that you would do to maximize the opportunity that is 2026, specifically relative to MLS, either on or off the field?
Ooh. What would I do to maximize the opportunity? There's not going to be any greater opportunity. And I think what happened to birth MLS was kind of a good chance for us to reflect on that and see what was done there to kind of prepare us and set the stage for success to happen afterwards. I don't know. I look at this World Cup and I think we need to find a way to continue to attract new fans, continue to implement ways to grow the youth game, right? There's a massive market of youth soccer across the country, but how do we find ways to get these players more engaged? How do we still tap into areas that players maybe don't have access to the game? I still think that that's an area where we can get better at. Messi's in this country now.
Right.
Messi's playing in MLS. Messi potentially will be playing in the World Cup again. How do we use that as fuel to continue to drive the awareness and what this beauty is of this sport? Because even if you look at coverage of soccer, football in this country, it's still not covered in the way that other traditional sport or American sports are covered, right? You turn on any of your whatever station you want to watch, and soccer is still not at the forefront of conversation. Soccer is still not present in these kind of conversations. So we have to find a way to draw more eyeballs on it, to amplify this game and really make it one that's felt in the same way and received in the same way that it is in Europe and across pretty much every other country across the globe.
You tested yourself in Europe. You played in Scotland and England. Two players in the news this past week, Miles Robinson and Brandon Vasquez, for making transfers that didn't involve going to Europe when everybody expected that was going to be the next step of their careers. Miles obviously going to Cincinnati, and then Vasquez going to Mexico to play for Monterrey. What did you make of those moves? Do you agree with the criticism that they should have gone to Europe, or you think that's unfair?
I think it's a little bit unfair, right? Because I don't know all the circumstances surrounding the moves, right? And for every player has their own motivation, and I don't think that I can't sit here and say this was the right decision for Miles, this was the right decision for Brandon. I can't sit here and say it's the wrong decision for them. I can look at it and say that I can appreciate the moves for what they are. Brandon's going to a club in Monterrey. That's a lot of pressure, especially for a striker, right? So whereas it's not Europe, that's fair. And the criticism might come because people thought that he had offers to go to some bigger clubs, some bigger leagues, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know that. I don't know what's factual and what isn't factual. But what I will say about the moves is there's still potential that Brandon could go have success at Monterrey, big club, big pressure, and still make a move to Europe if he's looking for that. Miles, I think his deal is just 1 year and an option year as well. So that sets the stage for him to go have success in Cincinnati, perform well there. Maybe he's playing in a different system that shows that he has versatility in how he can play as a center back. So I don't think it closes the door to Europe. All the build-up and all the rumors that were attached to both players is what maybe is fueling the fire for people to have criticism. But honestly, if you're performing well and you're playing well, one, the door for the national team is always going to be open. And two, there's still potential for you to go to Europe. They're, I think, 26, each of them, in and around that age. So I don't shut the door to Europe, and I'm not going to knock the move until we see how it progresses for either of them.
All right, we're going to let you go here. First off, sneaker game. Where are we at right now? Did Christmas bring any new ones?
Oh, Christmas always brings every holiday, every
what do you got
every
on now?
month. Let's
see, show the people what you're wearing now. What is
just
this?
Some Travis Scott ones.
Travis
I'm not
Scott?
as flexible as I used to be these days, man.
What number?
You like
how
them?
many? How many do we have now? What are we at now?
Listen, I'm actually. You'll be proud of me. I'm trying to drop
declutter.
The number.
You're going to get rid of some.
I am. I don't know when, but I am. Hey, if you you don't fit me, but
fit anything like that.
I'm trying to get rid of some.
You know, Alexi recently on the pod reminisced about his first U.S. national team camp where he was drinking beers with Eric Wynalda in a hot tub. Yep. I know you were one of the breakout stars of the 2008 January camp, I believe. Do you remember that far back, and any fun camp stories from your first U.S. national team camp?
My first camp actually was South Africa. South Africa 2007, I think November. And I remember it was a camp where, like, it was about 6 of us coming into camp. Myself, I want to say, like, Chris Seitz. Oh, I'm going to blank on the other names. And I don't know. I just remember I got an assist in that game, and I thought, oh, shit, this is gonna be pretty easy. I mean, like, hey, I'm gonna do all right. And
it's a long time ago. It's okay.
I gotta let it go. I gotta let it go, right?
Listen. You go relax a little bit.
Thank you,
man. We have a big panel coming up. You, Landon, Carli, others. It'll be fun here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Thank you, my friend. It's wonderful to see you. I can't wait to see you again this summer as we go through all the ridiculousness and wonderful ridiculousness that is multiple tournaments, Copa America and Euros and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully a lot of the stuff that you're talking about comes to fruition when it comes to the U.S. men's national team going forward. And thanks for coming on the pod.
Of course, man. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, joining us now here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, our friend, our colleague, Warren Barton. Warren tells me this is the first time he has ever been allowed on the State of the Union podcast. Is that
first
true?
time we could get him.
No, I've given my service many times, but it was like, no, we're okay. We've got someone else. But listen, I've waited my time, so you're good.
Wow. Well, don't screw this up.
No,
okay? You better bring it here.
Nervous,
you're gonna be fine. We're gonna do a panel here later with myself and Carli and Landon and others going forward. All right, listen, we got a big summer coming up. We can actually drop some news that Warren Barton is going to be in Germany.
Yes.
For us.
It's signed and sealed, being done.
Awesome. He is going to be in Germany for us in terms of Fox coverage of the Euros. First time that we are doing the Euros. Obviously, we have Copa America, so it's a whole summer of soccer that's going on. Now, I know a lot of times because of your England affiliation and your Newcastle affiliation, a lot of the questions are relative to England and relative to the EPL. But you also are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to American soccer, and you have a unique perspective, having lived over here for so many years and seeing what it is. Let's go straight to the U.S. men's national team right now, which we are going to see this summer in Copa America right now. What do you think that this U.S. men's national team needs to do this summer to prove to you, me, others, that they are heading in the right directions after what we saw in December of 22 with Gregg Berhalter and company at the World Cup in Qatar?
Yeah, I'm pleased for Gregg, obviously, to be back in charge of the program going forward. I think it's the right move, me personally. I like to see him come of age now. I think there's been a lot about this potential. I've been here 16 years now, and this group of talented young players that we've got, and we see it every season, every week. They're playing in Champions League football, playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. Well, if you're doing that, it comes with responsibility. And I think we now come to a stage where you've got to start winning games that you're supposed to win. You've got to get to quarterfinals. You've got to get to possibly semi-finals of major tournaments. I'm not talking about World Cups, but I'm definitely talking about something that could Copa America on your home soil, with time to prepare, with the MLS the way it's going. So there's so many things, particularly in recent years, 3 or 4 years, where we're making great strides in the direction of the national team going forward. Now they've got a long way to go where you guys was doing it, and it was the games was coming thick and fast, and the likes of yourself, and I know you've just had Brad Friedel on as well. That type of responsibility, they've got to embrace that. They've got to want to be involved. That Weston McKennie needs to step up. Christian needs now to be the real leader that we hope is. You know, Timothy Ware, I'm excited about him. I think he's one of these players that can go to that next level. So I think there's a lot of excitement about this team. There's a lot of belief. There's a lot of positivity. But now it's about delivering. I think it's that time now.
Can I ask him about England?
Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of Englishmen in England, in Germany, Harry Kane scored again today. We know what he's doing with Bayern Munich. We know what Jude Bellingham is doing with Real Madrid. A lot of people think England are joint favorites along with France. Are you on that page? Do you think the stars are aligning here for England to have a very strong Euros?
Yeah, I think, David, you're right. I think it's the time for them to deliver. Being so close last time in the Euros at Wembley, taking a lead against Italy, and then sort of a deer in headlights, didn't know what to do, and the Italians, being how great they are, got themselves back in the game and obviously go on to win it. But I think the experience that they've gained, I think with Harry Kane being rested, not the burden of the Premier League, the responsibility of being Tottenham's leading goal scorer going to Bayern Munich, scoring goals on a regular basis. Jude Bellingham now, for me, has gone to that next level as a world-class player. Now can he continue that for years to come? Foden's a wonderful player. The talent is there. The question mark that has always been with the England fans, the England pundits, is Gareth to let them go. Let the horses run, let them go and play. I still feel someone like Marcus Rashford has still got a point to prove, and he's only 24 years of age. So if it's going to come home, it's got to come home now, because Germany are still rebuilding. Ronaldo's coming to the end, but I wouldn't write them off, in Spain. France are, for me, the favourites. Anyone that's got Mbappe in their team are the favourites. But we're not far behind them. And I think when I said that lineup that you've got, Stones is so important. Alexi, you know, as a centre-half, he comes out with the ball, he's comfortable on the ball. He has to be fit, because you can't rely on Harry Maguire, with all due respect. He's come through a lot. Stones is someone, the Man City player, that needs to go forward. But I'm excited, Mosse, about being in Germany. It'd be so ironic and so lovely to win. I was involved in Euro 96 when the Germans come to Wembley and they won it. It'd be quite fitting to go back there and win it on their side.
Especially with Southgate and
missing the penalty as well. So there's so many things aligned, but the soccer gods don't always play like that.
You're going to have a wonderful German experience over there. It's going to be fun to see. All right, before we let you go, I mentioned the fact that you have this interesting perspective, having come over and lived here, but also done so much with the game abroad. I've asked a lot of people this, and I'm going to ask you to finish up this interview. Give me the best part about American soccer and the worst part about American soccer.
The positivity about American soccer. I think it reminds me very much of what the Premier League was in the early 90s. It's exciting, it's vibrant, it's new, it's different. And what I would love for the game, and with the World Cup coming in 2026 to the US, is the game to be given. And Alexi, you've been working for the networks for so many years, and Mosse, obviously, you've been involved in the game a long time. It's the game to have the same respect the NFL has, the same respect Major League Baseball has. So we still see it sometimes on media where, because they don't understand the game, they make a little bit of fun about it. Give it the respect it deserves, because it gives so much pleasure to so many people. It's so exciting, and even when it's a 0-0, you get certain people say, "Oh, it's boring." Well, you get a shutout in baseball, and everybody's clapping hands and saying it's wonderful. So we've got to get to that avenue. But the game is growing, as we see in this conference where we are here. I remember going to Baltimore, Philadelphia, all around with Fox Soccer, and now obviously we're doing it in Orange County. It's magnificent, and the game is going to get bigger and better. The grounds are getting better, the academies are getting better. Now the players have got to perform at a higher level. We've got the best player in the world at the moment, Messi.
Can I sneak in one more?
Sure, go ahead.
Go on, Mosse, sure.
I thought of you recently watching the Beckham Netflix documentary, obviously because you were a big part of that era of the Premier League, but also seeing a right-footed player on the right wing and a left-footed player, Ryan Giggs, on the left wing. And now we're in the era of inverted wingers. I thought about how much that must change defensively for fullbacks, where you're defending players who are always trying to cut into the middle rather than going to the byline.
Well, when Ryan Giggs was running at me, which he did numerous times, I was shining him inside anyway. So I was saying, Ryan, please go inside, because he was as quick with the ball as without the ball. But yeah, it's a major problem. And I think we see with Trippier in the Champions League. He had a problem solving that dilemma as a fullback you have to do. Lexi would tell you, and I'd tell you, you show him where you're the strongest. Now, if I'm quick enough and I can keep with him, I'm going to show him outside. If he's quicker than me, I'm going to show him inside the traffic. So, although the game's evolved, it's changed, the same mindset should stay there, that you've got to stop them scoring a goal. And as a defender, you do what you need to do.
The great Warren Barton. All right, you will see him and hear him this summer over there in Germany with our coverage of the Euros. We'll see if it's coming home. We'll see.
My life is complete. You know this. And now I've done,
and now
played in Champions League, Premier League, England, and now I've been on your show. I'm honoured.
My friend.
I am honoured.
You can retire a happy man. Thank you for coming on the show, my
Absolute
friend.
pleasure.
Okay. Warren Barton. More legends in the house, Mosse. Joining us now, my friend, our former colleague when it comes to Fox, and just one of the great American soccer players in history. Proud Ohioan, is that what you say over there? Brad Friedel, as I live and breathe, my friend. How are you?
I'm really good, Lolly. Mosse, it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. All right, so listen, what are you doing here? When we talk about goalkeepers, there's almost like this special type of fraternity. You might have your own handshake and all that kind of stuff, but I'm told that you're knee-deep in some incredible data when it comes to goalkeeping, trying to crack the code, if you will, and figure it out after all these years.
Yeah, I'm here with a company called goalkeeper.com. I'm a shareholder in it. It's the only global company for goalkeeping data analytics, goalkeeping only. So if you strip it down, Opta, Second Spectrum, etc., they do a great job with the outfield players, acceleration, deceleration, high-intensity sprints. I've seen you critique all the stats, all that. You just want a set piece. I get it.
Right.
So, but anyways, so what we do is strip it all down. It's just goalkeeper actions. 5 categories: shot stopping, handling, crosses, sweeping, distribution, and we can help with academies. We can help with scouting. We can help if you just want to get data on your own goalkeepers. You could help with your scouting for the opposition, but it gives you have the eye test obviously when you watch your game, but then it's not subjective. It is what it is. Like if there's a shot, what happens right now is there's shots if it's from 40 yards out and 12 miles an hour, from 7 yards out at 60 miles an hour. The stats today just say that's a shot.
Right.
Well, that's not the full story. So what we do, we have an astrophysicist, believe it or not, who is not me. I know that surprises you guys, and that's not me. But he sets up algorithms for each action. So whether it's a left foot shot, right foot shot, speed, trajectory, defenders there, not defenders there, the style of play your team plays, the style of play the other team plays, everything associated with it. You can tell should the goalkeeper have saved it, or the probability of it, or not.
Got it.
Quite remarkable.
First off, I miss you. When you were around, Fox had one person who knew what they were talking about. But you mentioned distribution. It's such an interesting time for goalkeepers with this emphasis on playing out of the back and goalkeepers having to play with their feet. We get frustrated sometimes when a keeper who's a good shot stopper gets dropped for not being able to play with his feet. Do you think things have gone a bit too far on that side of things, or you get the emphasis on playing with your feet?
It depends on the head coach, depends on the style of play, of course. But there's really only one anomaly in the entire game, and that's a Pep Guardiola team. And again, the stats are not subjective. The most important element of what our stats suggest is the shot-stopping ability and the shot handling are the 2 most important aspects of goalkeeping. What I would say is this, and the reason I say that Pep Guardiola's teams are an anomaly, Ederson is so good with his feet that he actually wants defenders to attract to Ederson because he knows he can take 1 or 2 out with 1 pass, and then another defender has to come and take on Rodri in the midfield, who is very good on the ball, as we all know. The fullbacks bomb forward, and then they're off to the races. Not everybody can play like that, So in other teams, when somebody is dropped, especially at the youth levels because of it, I think that is where I would agree with you guys, like thinking that's harsh.
But you would agree also that because of Pep ball, if you will, and what has happened, that has become maybe not the norm, but the ideal. And you're putting players, and oftentimes younger players, in positions that either they shouldn't be in the first place, or they don't have the skills either now or maybe ever to actually do the things that are done at the ideal with a Pep team.
Yeah, and I would actually go back even a little further. I know Pep was associated with, but that the Barcelona team as a whole, because not just the goalkeeper playing out of the back, it became every team should play
1,000 passes and all that kind of stuff.
All the time.
Yeah.
And if you speak to Pep about it, he's like, we don't play tiki-taka. Like somebody named it that. No, that's my system. That's my style to suck players into one area of the field to get to another area of the field quickly to expose the opposition. That's really what he wants to do, and he uses the goalkeeper to do that. And I think, the game's cyclical. I mean, go back to Cruyff. I mean, the Dutch, that was total. They're the ones that invented the total football, and it's just come back again. And the emphasis, there is a huge emphasis on distribution. Look at Xabi Alonso's teams. I mean, but he doesn't. Their goalkeeper won't risk as much as a Guardiola team, but they're very, very good, intricate passers of the ball as well. I would say they play a little bit more direct than a Man City would, but only slightly.
It's an interesting time for American goalkeepers. They're still getting opportunities in Europe, but they're struggling to start for the bigger clubs. While guys like you and Tim Howard, when you ended up starting for some of the biggest clubs in the world. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Have American keepers lost a little bit of prestige overseas?
All right, we go into it. We'll dive in. What the hell? You always upset everybody. So I think some of those goalkeepers have gotten some bad advice on their career paths. When I went to Liverpool, I knew I was at least a joint number 1 and given an opportunity. It didn't work out at Liverpool, so I had to go somewhere, and I played. Casey went over, and if Millwall was his first club, he played. That's where you learn. That's where you get better. That's where the fun of it all is getting onto the field. Tim Howard, he went over. Man United didn't work out. What did he do? He moved, and he played, and he got better for it. And right now, the goalkeepers that we have been moving, sort of knowing they're going to be number 2 or number 3 as the number 1 goalkeepers. I gave Matt Turner his debut in the professional game with New England. He is good enough. He's actually a tremendous shot stopper. He's had to improve with his feet. Of course, and he's had to work at it. But he's a great kid, great worker. He's good enough to play somewhere. I thought the Arsenal move was not just because of my Tottenham association. This is no, and I mean this sincerely. And I told him this on the phone when I spoke to him. It wasn't the right move. Ramsdale, the fee they paid for Ramsdale, the wages they're paying for Ramsdale is going to have every opportunity to start. It wouldn't be 1 mistake or 2 mistakes in Turner's end. It would have been 4 months of mistakes, and then maybe it would have happened. And that's not what you want when you're going to be the number 1. Zach Steffen, really good goalkeeper, Zach. The distribution really good, his presence, his body. Yep. He went and he showed it at Middlesbrough when he finally went somewhere and was going to play. I think the move coming back to Colorado is a great one for Zach because he's going to play. And you have to, at some stage, take some of the financial element out of it, especially when you're young, and play. It's no fun. You've been in teams where you're dropped. It's horrible. And as a goalkeeper, it's even worse because there's only one position you play. Yeah, you have to wait for an injury, and then that's not cool to want your teammate to get injured, and it's a tough spot to be in. So that's, Ethan Horvath's in a tough position. I think he's a little bit more unlucky because he went last year and I thought he performed really well. To now not be in the 25-man that you can't even get a game. I think that's tough, and I know he's trying to play, but it needs to get resolved quickly before the 2026 World Cup, so we have at least 3 or 4 goalkeepers playing regularly that can have competition for the place. Competition makes you better.
Who's the starting goalkeeper in 2026 in your crystal ball right now, if you had to say right now? For the U.S.
I don't know. That's my crystal ball, and that's what I think Mosse's alluding to.
So it's wide open.
I think if it started today, it's Turner.
Right.
In 2026, it's wide open because we have to see. Turner's gone back in at Forest, and he's performed. Sure. He's performed pretty well since he's come back in. But new manager at Nottingham Forest, are they buying another goalkeeper? If they do, then what? And hopefully he finds some. If that happens, he either remains as number 1 or moves somewhere where he can play. But to start in a World Cup and be at the top of your game, you can't be on the bench and then go start in a World Cup and perform to the best of your ability. It's hard, really hard to do that. You remember when we were back, Tony or myself or Casey, and when we were swapping, it was hard to get a rhythm. Yeah. It
almost wasn't fair to the goalkeepers.
Yeah, it would have been.
And it's harder also from the players in front of you too to get that coordination and get reps and do all that kind of stuff.
And then you have all the noise around too, like with the keepers and the media, who's going to start, who's better, and it's just too much. That's why when Raya went to Arsenal and Ramsdale was there, and joint number 1s, no, there's no joint number 1. There's a number 1, and Raya was it. They should have Ramsdale, your number 2. Just laid it on, ripped the Band-Aid off, and let that be that.
You got one more before we go?
In terms of the U.S. team as a whole, how do you see it progressing? What are your expectations for the Copa America this summer?
All right. A fully firing, which is awesome to see, because I was getting worried a little bit with Wes McKinney. And I know when I was at Fox, I think we spoke about Wes was with me with the U19s, and probably spoke about a few times how good he is. He, for me, is our most important player because he can be a very influential box-to-box player. Christian's outstanding. We know that he can score goals. The continuity along the back line worries me a little bit at this moment in time. That we have enough time to, and Gregg has enough time to correct it before 2026. But by the Copa America, it'll be hard tests. So it'll be
Months
exciting.
from now.
Yeah. So, but with Christian's form, which is excellent right now, with Weston's form, which is excellent, and then we need that one more piece. Well, Musa as well, but the one more piece Tyler Adams has missed. He's missed with Bournemouth. He's missed with the national team, and a lot off the field too, because you know how important, Lex, the camaraderie and when
he's a leader. Yeah,
he is. He is, and he was a leader when he was 16, 17, coming into the older age groups with the youth teams. He was a leader with the older guys. You could see it. It just within 10 minutes of the first training session he came in with me. You're like, whoa, okay. And so we need all of our guys to be fit, to do well. We don't have the luxury like some countries do of having 23 top Champions League level players.
Last question before we go, because you think about the game, and I know you obviously are talking a lot about goalkeeping, but I love the way that you think about the game in general. And you've had incredible experiences in terms of your career and post-career. When you think about American soccer, how far it's come, that's all fine and well. But where it is right now in 2024, and to a certain extent leading into 2026, give me the best part about American soccer and the worst part about American soccer.
The worst part's the easy one. It's the political setup. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too much, but you know what I'm talking. Don't look at me like that. I'll leave that to you.
So the federation?
No. The political landscape that is like within the youth soccer world, where they're
the fiefdoms and the soccer wars with the Z and
they're fighting with, like, thinking that their amateur club that is pay as you play is better than a free of charge professional club, and they fight against it. And there's a lot at the younger ages, a lot of fighting. Like
ego and money.
It's just it's just a mess.
Right.
Like, and that I think that's the worst part, because as soon as you could fix it in one state, another state gets worse. And you got the populated states, you got California, you got Texas, you got down the Florida areas and stuff, that there's so many good players. There really is. And getting the good coaches and infrastructure in gets blocked a lot. I think that's the worst. The best is that we are a country, if you look around the world, maybe India, if they could ever get it, that has the highest ceiling of potential for growth with a developed country for a sport, and I just do not see it slowing down for a long time. I do some work with investment groups purchasing clubs. America, I mean, they want to know everything it is. They want the multi-club system, but America, what's going to go on? 2020, you got Club World Cup, you got World Cup, you got the women's game, and then don't get me started. The women's game is enormous for teams. I mean, look what's going on in the Premier League now, and then they look back to America. So I think the best thing about U.S. soccer right now is the growth potential in so many areas, and people around the world are taking in not small little notices, like the amount of scouts that come over here from the Bundesliga and from Premier League. It used to be, well, let's get them into Czech Republic or Poland, see how they do. A small team in Holland, see how they do before we go. The big boys are coming over here to try to get players and coaches and technical staff and medical staff at younger ages, and when their careers are just starting, so they don't have to pay the top dollar for them. I think that's really exciting for the country as a whole.
That is awesome, my friend. Brad Friedel, ladies and gentlemen. You know him, you love him, and you saw him play for years and years on the field. Thank you, my friend, and best of luck going forward.
You got. Thank you. Great to see you guys.
All right, we only get the biggest and the best, my friend, here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Randy Waldrum joins us here. Pitt, Nigeria. All sorts of things. We were talking off air how our paths haven't really crossed over the years, and yet we have been involved in American soccer. I have admired you from afar. Now, I said Nigeria because there always seems to be questions when it comes to Nigeria, both the men's and women's game and all that kind of stuff. They keep us on our toes. They provide plenty of content with us. You can officially say you are still the coach now of Nigeria.
I am still the coach of Nigeria.
The proud coach of Nigeria.
I can officially tell you that.
Despite all the trials and tribulations.
You know what? I'm a glutton for punishment. Yeah, in spite of everything, I'm still the coach of Nigeria, and really happy to do so. And, we do these things because of the players at the end of the day. And it's a great group of women that have so much potential, don't have the resources that the powers to be around the world have. And it's the reason I'm doing it, is helping to fight the battle, grow the women's game, and hope you can entice some change over there. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're working at it.
Well, one of the ways that you change perception and you grow the game is through success. Yep. We understand that wins and losses are important. This summer must have been wonderful for you in terms of doing that with this incredible group of young women that you had. Yeah. Had to be one of the proudest moments of your career?
It was, because I'll have to be honest with you, going into it, we thought we were going to get a 5-week camp, and it got canceled. For whatever reason, I don't know. I could keep you on air too long to tell you all the stories, right? But we only got 10 days. So we had 10 days to prepare for the World Cup.
You prepared 10 days before the World Cup is how much preparation you had for Nigeria in the World Cup this summer.
That's all we had. And while the other countries were playing each other national teams to prepare, we played a local club team. We win 8-1. We got nothing out of the game within our 10 days. So we had 10 days. I met my assistant coach for the first time, the one that I utilized in Australia for the first time, because I wasn't utilizing the Nigerian coaches, even though I had them, there wasn't much help there. And so a lot of backroom stories to make the success even more important. But I really, if I'm being honest, felt like going into it, in that group of death, we could have lost by 4 or 5 goals every game, and it wouldn't have surprised me, because we had talent, but we had no time. And you know this at international football, most coaches don't realize, they think, well, you've been the coach for 2.5 years. Yeah, but you get a 10-day window here or there, and you get 2 games in the window, and players are traveling in from all over the world, so you really have a couple of recovery days when when you get there, and then you play a game, and then you got to have a recovery day, and you only get a couple of days to train in the game. So it's not like a club coach that has every day of the week to train for 2 years to prepare. So difficult challenge, and that's why it made it all more exciting to see how well we really did. And a lot of that credit to me goes to these players that kind of bought in. The other thing they did is they went to FIFA Pro as soon as they arrived and filed their grievances with FIFA Pro to fight their battles for everything that they were owed. And they made, along with myself in our first team meeting when we got there, this conscious decision to say, we're focusing on the football. Media ask us about it. We're not going to answer those questions. We're just going to focus on the game. So as you know, any coach, doesn't matter who it is, however you're going to play, players have to buy in, and they did with the things we needed to do. And I said before, I knew we weren't prepared. I knew we weren't going to have the ball very much. So I focused on 2 areas. It's just a really good defensive block. And I knew then the only way we were going to get goals is to play off the counter. So we worked on those 2 things and just drilled it for 10 days and, got better as the tournament went along, quite frankly. So, so it was a great experience.
That win over Australia was maybe my favorite match of the tournament. Oshawala, what a player, huh?
Yeah. She's different because she scores a ton of goals for Barcelona. And she was taking a lot of heat before the World Cup because she wasn't scoring goals for us. And I'm trying to get them to understand she's with Barcelona every day. She has world-class players in every position. They get her the ball where she wants it. We're here, one camp we have one set of players. The next camp you have a different one because we can't always get our players there because finances and visa issues. And but you can see sparks of her in the World Cup, what she's really capable of doing.
But you actually juggle 2 jobs because you've also turned Pitt into a national power.
Yeah.
How does that work? How often are you sitting in your Pitt office and thinking about Nigeria? How often are you with Nigeria and thinking about Pitt? How does that work?
Every day. Yeah, every day. I couldn't have done it. Honestly, two things that allowed this to happen. It's one, I got a great AD that said, go for it, right? Like, she understands the branding even will help us at Pitt. Like, she gets the bigger picture, not just you're going to be gone, but she gets the big picture. And the other reason is my son Ben is my associate head coach, so he knows how we want to play. He's pretty much running the show anyway. And if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have taken it on because I don't think it would have done justice to be gone when I need to be gone and put my mind into Nigeria when it needs to be on the college job. So a lot of the credit of our Pitt success go to him.
Speaking of college, last week I was in St. Louis for the Mac Herman Trophy Award.
Yeah.
One of your players from a Nigerian perspective, Oni Echegini, won the Player of the Year. I guess from a Nigerian perspective, it would be Jennifer.
Right, that's
Jennifer.
right. Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Take it bigger picture in terms of what what college is, I guess what it was back in the day when we thought of it.
Yeah.
We talked a lot to a lot of the players and the coaches that were out there about the changing pathway that is college, but still the value that it brings to players, not just in kicking the ball, but even off the field with that collegiate path. Do you see it continue to dry up and therefore go away, or is the possibility to kind of reclaim some of that when it comes to the college game?
You know, I think we're in a really interesting time now for a couple of reasons. One, with all the conference realignments and what's going to happen with that, because I think that's going to dictate a lot of where college soccer goes, you know, depending on how that plays out. I think NIL has started to creep in even into the women's game. And I think it's obviously probably more going to happen more on the men's side of the college game. And of course, we're way two different places now with the MLS and European opportunities for the men's team. We've kind of been on two different platforms, you know, for a while now. But I'm a little bit concerned with the college game because of those things trickling in and what may happen. You know, Jennifer has NIL deal that was the reason she went back to Florida State for her last year. She probably wouldn't have come back had she not gotten an NIL deal, you know, from Florida State. And so now that's going to affect recruiting and players, and you know,
it's a different world now.
It's just a different world from that standpoint. Now I do think it's different on the women's side because the pathway to a pro career or to our national team on the women's side is still primarily college as of today. But as we're already seeing in the NWSL, they're starting to sign 16, 17, 18-year-old players, so we're starting to head in the direction that the men's game has gone. And a lot of our better players are foregoing years of eligibility to go overseas. So the women's game is probably about 10 years or so in that matter behind where the men's game has been going. So I do think that's going to change the dynamics of it. I'm a big advocate of what Sasha was trying to do with the 21st century model. I can't get our women's coaches on board for whatever reason. They think we develop players in the spring and they love only 3 months. And I'm going, you mean you can't develop players year round? I mean, I don't get it. But I think something in our model may have to change a little bit to really get the top players eventually to stay when they have an option to go overseas to play professionally. And right now in the women's game, the money's just not enough to forego the college education to do that, right? And interesting though, it's almost the opposite because I got one of my Nigerians playing for me at Pitt this year off our senior team, Deborah, a young player, and she is one of the few Nigerians that understands the value of getting an education and then going pro because obviously she has no life in Nigeria if she doesn't get an education. She'll be selling things off the street corner, you know, like other people do to make her living. And so recruiting her was almost the exact opposite of, you know, some of the U.S. domestic players.
Speaking of the college game, I know Anson Dorrance is a mentor of yours.
Yes.
Talk to me about the influence he's had in your career.
Well, when I was a young coach, you know, I would come in and work ODP camps, and Anson was on regional staff, and I got to know him there and came in and worked camps with him from that standpoint. And then we got on with, you know, back then it was the NSCAA, but we were coaching on staff, teaching our license programs to coaches. And I think we may have even sat on a few U.S. soccer coaching courses together where we were instructors. So I just got to know him a lot. I was really lucky to have a lot of mentors. I mean, even Glenn Meyernick, you know, I was a young guy coming in. He helped me break in. Bob Gansler, you know, some of the guys that obviously Alexi knows really well. So I was real fortunate to have a group of people like Anson and like those guys that kind of took me under their wing a little bit and were willing to share ideas, you know. And I think that's what it's all about in this game, is having people that's willing to share. It's you find a lot of coaches that want to keep everything to themselves, and it's like we're still trying to grow the game. So let's help. So I have a lot of time for Anson, a lot of respect. Obviously his legacy is already there.
Before we let you go, I'm asking everybody this, and I often do. And you know, you've laid out in such a wonderful way the perspective that you have, the unique perspective that you have, and fighting the good fight a lot. And in doing so, you've helped so many individuals and obviously the game here. But you have this perspective on the U.S. game in particular, which is what we focus here on when it comes to the State of the Union.
Yeah.
Give me the best and the worst thing about American soccer. It could be on the field or off the field, but
pay pay to play.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we.
That's the best?
No. I think that's the worst. I think. You know, we've been fortunate over the years to see the growth of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in such a different place with the growth and the talent pool that we're putting out and the player. So the best part of it is, with such a large country, we have players. People that tell us we don't have enough good players to compete for a World Cup in the men's side, or to continue to be the best in the world on the women's side, that everybody's catching up. Well, we still have enough players and talent and enough good coaches in this country, if it's harnessed the right way, to achieve those goals, right? And it kind of upsets me when people say, well, the world's catching up on the women's side. Well, what the world is doing is they're now investing more money. Spain's invested more money, the Dutch, the French, you know, all the top teams. England, they're just now starting to invest money, whereas the U.S. was doing it earlier. So that's why they're catching up. It doesn't mean their players are becoming better and better. I could go through a list of young players, you know, for you right now, like a Jaden Shaw, that's going to be a great star for our national teams. And we have a pipeline of that. But I think our infrastructure is not right. You know, I think the way our scouting system on the women's side, now I can't speak to the men's because I don't know it well enough, but on the women's side, I can sit here and honestly say some of the scouts we have, I look at them and go, what have you done to be able to be identifying players? You haven't ever been at that level. You don't know what it takes to play. And I think then club soccer is a nightmare. I mean, it's as good as there are so many clubs around, you're just fighting for players and fighting for results, and players are hopping from club to club. So I think that system is a nightmare. Pay to play, parents now aren't accountable. The kid's not getting playing time. They just jump. Players don't learn anymore how to go, I have to grind this out and get better. I'm not playing because I got to get better, right? And so it's easy to just go somewhere else and put on a different jersey and play. So there's a lot of infrastructure things that I think we've got wrong, and I don't know how to solve it because these clubs are making so much money. Yeah. They're not going to give up. You know, they're never going to come together. Real quick, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but interesting, when I went out to Germany for the World Cup in Germany, we did a coaching course with the NSCA over there, and they took us to the federation and kind of discussed their system. But over there, the coaches are so player development oriented. If you have a youth player that plays for Schalke, a youth team, and you're in the second division, and you're coaching a team in Bayern, you push your player to him if he wants them. You just, even if it's outside the club, we're pushing our best players forward. Here, you can't even, in a club, you can't even get an age group within your own club to push a player up because it affects that coach's team. You know, like, it's just all kinds of things like that. I just think we've got to really, you know, we had a 10-year plan 10 years ago to get us to this point. It's time to really have another plan to prepare for the next 2 World Cups away, you know, on the men and women's side.
Randy Waldrum, coach of Pitt, coach of Nigeria. You're preparing for the Olympics and all of that. And what I hear, Mosse, is that the sky is not falling. Okay, certainly we have problems, but it's not falling. And one of the reasons why it's not falling are people like this and everything that he has done and continues to do on and off the field. Best of luck, my friend, going forward. It was great to finally meet you in person. As I said, I've admired you from afar. Yeah. As Mosse said, you made our summer. You gave us plenty to talk about and plenty to cheer about from a World Cup perspective. And here's to many, many more good games, many, many more wins, many, many more opportunities to change the lives of these young women that you come in contact with.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to meet you finally. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, this is going to be interesting because it's kind of hot off the press right now. And we here on the State of the Union, we like to talk about things that are new, that are different. Joining us right now is André Swanston, the founding partner for one of the newest professional teams in the landscape out there, Connecticut United Football Club. They are going to join MLS Next Pro in 2025. So the club just dropped this past week. First off, congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I guess the first question is, why MLS Next Pro? I'm assuming that you paid an expansion fee for this, right?
Yes, I did.
You want to tell us what it was? What was it?
So I can't say what it is.
Oh, come on. Give it.
Well, here's what, it's 7 figures. I mean, it's not, you know,
it's not nothing.
10 grand, right? Or else everybody would be doing it. And it's not $500 million like MLS. But, you know, it is millions of dollars like it would be in other leagues, right?
Right. And so why would you want to do, well, first off, why would you want to do professional soccer, all right? Yeah. Because it is a down and dirty type of business. It's not for the faint of heart. There is certainly a history out there when it comes to leagues folding and teams folding right now. And specifically, why would you want to do MLS Next Pro? And for those that don't know out there, MLS Next Pro has been around for the last couple of years. You know, for lack of a better word, it is the reserve league of Major League Soccer going forward. It wants to be some bigger and better than that going forward. Maybe you saw and are looking around the corner here, but why this and why now?
Yeah, well, first in terms of why soccer in general, right? I never played soccer. I ran track at UConn with my wife, so I was an athlete, but I wasn't a soccer player. Went to boarding school, went to Hotchkiss. In my dorm I was 3 doors down with Shavar Thomas.
Right? Oh, my goodness, okay.
Right, who ended up going on to be the captain of the Jamaican national team, Alex Blake, and a couple other, world-class players. And so you just became fans of your friends, right? So that's how I first became a fan of soccer. Went to UConn, which at the time was like a powerhouse in college soccer, be 3,000 fans on a Friday night on campus. So that's just a love of soccer. In terms of kind of the business standpoint, I mean, my tech company that I was founded and was the CEO of, we powered all the data and analytics for streaming media. So pretty much half the industry over the last decade has used our data to play Moneyball with content production, licensing, advertising, decisioning on streaming. So I could see the growth of soccer and where the economics were and the opportunity. And then the third part is Connecticut is the most underserved sports market in America, right? 3.6 million people, highest soccer viewing market without an MLS team, highest subscription market for soccer in America, and so it just
made all the streaming things over there. It's the highest one.
Yeah.
In America? Oh, really?
So when you talk about the economics of soccer moving forward, right? What is it about? It's going to be tied to subscription streaming services. It's tied to premium and luxury seating in stadiums. Connecticut works pretty well for that. And then I think if soccer in America is going to be serious, you have to have professional teams that are the number 1 or number 2 team, at least in their market. And so when you talk about Connecticut being 3.6 million people with no NFL, no NBA, no NHL, no MLB, pro soccer can actually be number 1 in one of the most densely populated markets in America. And so just really excited about that. The second part of your question was why Next Pro? Well, the goal
But you're coming in as an independent team. I probably should have said that.
True.
With no affiliation to an MLS team, but part of this league that MLS created a few years ago.
Exactly. And so I think a couple things. One, it's the goal is MLS. I didn't get into this to be the owner of a lower division team. I got into that because I look at that as the stepping stone for something bigger, right? And so what I've been telling people is that we're going to build the foundation, right? Both literally and figuratively, to be the next expansion team in MLS. And I think that is 3 core things. We already have, on paper, with the data, the best expansion market, right, in terms of streaming, subscription, less competition, more Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies per capita than any other potential expansion market. And so now we are launching a free youth academy. So we're about youth development. There's a whole lot of leagues saying they're about youth development, but their academies are subsidized. Their teams are subsidizing the pro team by charging families $5, $6, $7, $8 grand a year. We're having a free youth academy where we have 20 acres of land in a downtown urban area close to public transportation, so we have a viable location for a urban stadium. And then
That's where?
Bridgeport, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, right? And then we will have a next pro team, so we can have a path to professional. And so the goal is that after we build that infrastructure, that foundation, I think will have everything between the market demographics, the youth development, and the next pro team and the stadium project to be the most viable expansion market. So if you're going to try to expand to MLS, why not be in the MLS ecosystem, right? As opposed to going anywhere else.
MLS caused controversy recently by saying that they want to field the MLS Next Pro teams in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset about that. I'm sure you have a different perspective on that. You want them to try to grow MLS Next Pro.
Yeah, so, regardless of that decision, and listen, I wouldn't have said this a month ago, but I've already been voted in, so I could say a little bit more. Like, I didn't like it either because I want to beat an MLS team, right? Because if I'm trying to say, hey, I want to earn my way into the league as much as you can do that in the United States, right? I want to have the opportunity to go head-to-head against an NYCFC or Revolution or Red Bull and show what we can do. But the independent teams were going to be in U.S. Open Cup anyway, so that didn't change anything. So I look forward to being in U.S. Open Cup and playing against USL teams and MLS teams. We can give it to NISA teams, NPSL. I could care less, right? Because if you really believe that you can try to build one of the best clubs in North America, you have to be willing to play anybody. That's my opinion.
So let me go back to something you said about the aspiration for this club. Mm-hmm. You are looking at it as not a back door, because you're still kind of coming in the front door, but positioning yourself in a much better position, being in that ecosystem, having proof of concept, and with all the other advantages that you're talking about when you're talking about Connecticut, to become a fully fledged MLS team in the future. Is there anything contractual in what you have signed that says for a specific amount? Because we know right now MLS teams now, just for expansion, are going for probably, when it all comes down to it, $500 million, and that's just for the expansion, not including money that you have spent for a stadium and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, let's be clear, there's absolutely no contractual agreement to do so. There's no guarantee. There's no wink and a nod. This is a calculated bet, right? It's a calculated bet. If you look at many of the most successful MLS teams, they were USL teams or NASL teams or whatever. They proved out their markets, the Cincinnatis, the Seattles, the what have you, right? They built up their fan base, and then they got the billionaire to come in and do what have you. And so same thing when I started my tech startup. I didn't have the money to compete against Nielsen and ComScore and Oracle and Adobe. I built something from scratch, and I became the go-to, core company across the industry. And so what my bet is that if it's about money in this country, right? And my bet is if we can prove that it is a better money-making proposition for all the owners in the league to have Connecticut in than Detroit or Sacramento or Phoenix or Tampa or whoever else is looking for expansion, why would they not do that, right? So if you look at the data, the sleeping giant is we could add more West Coast expansion markets, or we could whatever. The sleeping giant is the New York City tri-state area is underperforming relative to viewership, ticket sales, and stuff like that. What's the biggest show in town in college basketball in New York City? It's UConn, right? Nobody cares about Rutgers or Seton Hall or even St. John's. It's when UConn comes to town. That's why UConn has, 6 games in Madison Square Garden? They call it Stores South, right? UConn is the big show. And it's also just the tri-state rivalry. And so if Connecticut by itself, look, Connecticut is about 5,500 square miles, the entire state of Connecticut, 3.6 million people. The Nashville metropolitan area is over 6,000 square miles with less people. The St. Louis metropolitan area is over 6,000 square miles with less people. The Austin metropolitan area is 6,000 square miles with way less people. So Connecticut's already bigger than 3 of the 4 most recent expansion teams with more per capita income and less competition. And so if Connecticut by itself is a strong market, and you now connect that Boston, New England, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Philly, you're talking about 1 out of every 8 people in America all being able to have a rivalry within 2 hours of each other. And so I think if we can build that infrastructure to be elite in terms of our youth academy, our next door team, we can have one of the best stadiums, we can make money for ourselves, and we can reinvigorate the New York City media market and Northeast rivalry, I think it's a viable path, and that's what I'm betting on.
One more question for me, but before I turn it over to Mosse here and to finish this up. You've talked a lot about data and money to a certain extent. Was the USL path too expensive, or was it just the value, again, of being in that ecosystem that is MLS and associating with that now powerful brand that you hope to be a part of in a full MLS capacity?
Yeah, listen, so no, the USL path wasn't too expensive, but it didn't make sense relative to where I wanted to end up, right? Okay. What I will say is I'm not one of these guys that has to talk down about the other guy to, I think the rising tide can actually float all boats. I got a lot of respect for a lot of the USL folks, whether it's Hartford Athletic or some of the other teams. Frankly, any lower division team that even survived COVID, right, as a business owner that survived COVID, I think you got to have a lot of respect for, the tenacity and what they did. And so I want to be at the top, right? I'm doing this because I think there's no question that MLS is the top league in America. I don't think there's a real reasonable conversation about that. And so if that's where you want to go, before there was an MLS Next Pro, I absolutely was thinking USL. That was the only viable path 3 years ago. So USL was what, in 2019, when I first came up with the idea, that's what I was thinking. But as soon as MLS Next Pro, I heard about it, it was clear that was the path that needed to be taken.
First off, you don't have to tell Alexi about UConn basketball. He knows all about Kemba Walker, Ray Allen, and all those guys. But I have to ask you the obligatory promotion-relegation question as somebody that's now getting into the American soccer realm.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think we'll ever see it? Does it make sense for the United States to adopt that?
Yeah, so here's my thought on that, right? Would it be great for the real soccer fans? I think it would be. I think the majority of the people that actually show up to stadiums, half of them don't know what it is, and half of the other half that do know it is don't care. So I think it's more for the soccer purist. I think the economics of it, if we're all honest with ourselves, are impossible this decade, right? So everybody's locked into TV media rights and so forth. It can't happen, relegation, with the investment that people have made. So I think if we're realistic, it can't happen now. However, right, when you talk about an Apple TV deal having, 9 years left, after Copa America, Club World Cup, Olympics, men and women, and all the growth that we're seeing, and then when it's time for a new media rights deal, and let's just say there's more clubs that come in, could it be possible, 2030 when it's, or 2031, 2032? I think it could be then if the economics for the media rights incentivize owners enough where you're like, okay, I can make 200% more, but I could risk making 30% less. I think most people will take that risk. The economics aren't there now. What I do think, obviously I'm extremely biased when it comes to this, what I do think is possible in the US in a more realistic timeline is merit-based promotion, right? And so what I mean by that is there's no relegation. That's just not happening right now. But instead of it just being, hey, billionaire comes and spends $500 million and has no academy, no team, no nothing, and comes in, how about everybody still gets their expansion money, right? So you still get your $500 million, but in order to qualify to pay your $500 million, you have to have had an academy, and you need to finish, in the top two.
It triggers it for you.
Yeah. So if you finish it, if you have the infrastructure, you have the stadium, the viable stadium, and you finish in the top two in the second division,
you earn the right.
Then you earn the right to cut the big check. I think that would be quite exciting because it now makes lower division. You could do the same thing in the third division. Like, hey, if you finish the top two and you can then pay the expansion, you go into tech. So I think we can have merit-based promotion, and I think it could work because everybody gets money. Everybody's incentivized from third division to second division, first division. But that, I think, is what's realistic kind of immediately if people want to do it. The relegation is just not happening. I wouldn't agree to it if I owned an MLS team right now.
Right, of course. Why would you? Why, you bought into something without it. You mitigated that risk, which is already a risky venture. So why would you voluntarily agree to accept more risk? You're obviously a smart person. You're a businessman, and you're all about data. So my last question to you is, Connecticut United FC. Okay, did the data say that equated with authenticity, and therefore, when it came to selling the product out there in the market, people would gravitate to that because they associate that with true, authentic, genuine type of soccer, I guess football in this case?
Yeah, so we didn't use data for the name, right? And I know it's a traditional name. We could have been something sexy like, the Battle Ravens or something like that, right? And people are like, oh, the Connecticut Battle Ravens, right, or something. So we get that. But listen, there's so much divisiveness in this country right now. I kind of like it. Maybe call me, it's cliche or it's, whatever, naive. But I was just like, you know what, United, there's something, it can mean something. The other thing that's interesting about a market like Connecticut is even though Connecticut has some of the most densely populated, metro areas, right? So, Stamford, Norwalk, Bridgeport, New Haven, Milford, Hartford, West Hartford. I mean, those are 3 of the top 20 most densely populated metro areas. Connecticut can't be on the national stage with a city, right? There's no city name that I think can carry it on the national stage, but because of the success of UConn and others, Connecticut has a name, and I think Connecticut combined, united as one market. So it's, people can say it's corny or what have you, or we could have been more original, but it actually meant something like, hey, we don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Connecticut's also one of the most, not only racially, but culturally and socioeconomically diverse states in the country. And so it just felt right. And the only people that have been hating on it are like the Hartford Athletic supporters, pretty much. And you know what, though? But I love that. I love that because it shows loyalty and passion. I'm a Connecticut fan for everything, right? Like, I will root for any team that's Connecticut against everybody else, except for, like, I'm diehard Knicks fan, and I'm born and raised in the Bronx and Yankees fan. But other than that, I'm pretty much Connecticut for just about anything, all teams.
Awesome. I don't know. This has been really cool and interesting. So thank you for coming on the State of the Union. André Swanston, the founding partner of the MLS Next Pro independent team that was just announced, the Connecticut United Football Club. Best of luck on the field as you go forward. Hopefully you come back when you drop the actual brand, right? Because that still has to come.
Yeah, that's coming this spring. It'll be Fly, I promise you.
All right, Fly's good, right? Fly's good, Mosse?
Fly's good.
All right, long live the Hartford Whalers too. All right, rest in peace and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much.
Awesome, appreciate it.
All right. All right, Mosse's taking a trip around to check out the stalls over here. But look, I have a legend here in Peter Wilt. Yes, exactly. So many things. I don't have it in front of me in terms of your leadership over the years, whether it's with MLS or whether it's with any number of leagues out there. And I will tell this quick story. When I first started in the front offices, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I reached out to as many different people as possible, including the people that I knew understood, or certainly understood more than I have. And you were so kind and generous with your time and your wisdom as to what I needed to do. And part of your wisdom was, you know what, you're going to make mistakes. We all do. You just have to get through it. So I thank you for that. It's wonderful to see you. Happy New Year to you.
To you as well. How long can we say Happy New Year?
I'm going to do it.
End date?
Well, I still want you to have a Happy New Year.
So
okay?
Come July,
right?
And I see you.
Yeah.
Happy rest of the New Year.
Happy rest of the New Year. All right, listen, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I don't want to get into all over the weeds, but I want to talk about American soccer because you have a wonderful perspective. You have not only seen it, but you seem to travel the country, all right, and find yourself in extraordinary and wonderful and interesting situations relative to American soccer. You have your own ideas. I want to hear some of those right now as to here as we sit in this new year in 2024. The good and the bad of American soccer. I know it's a big question, but I'm just going to start it out like that and let you go.
Well, the good is that the sport has never been as strong, as healthy, as broad as it is now. It's incredible. If you think back where it was 10 years ago and then would have thought how many teams, for better or worse, how many leagues, the quality, not just the quantity, of these leagues, teams, and players and coaches, I don't think anyone would have predicted it. So I think it's all wonderful. The flip side of it is, and I'm a contributor to this, there's these soccer wars going on. It's not united. Whatever the opposite of united is, it's divided. And I suppose in some ways that creates competition, and competition ultimately is supposed to, through evolution, lead to a better product. So I hope that's where this all gets us, but we're in such a crazy moment right now with people with different ideas, myself included, that there's not this unified direction forward.
You are a legend for a number of different reasons. When it comes to MLS, with what you did with the Chicago Fire and starting that and winning it and doing all that. And you have since over the years gone on and you have led so many different teams in so many different leagues, startup teams, little teams, big teams, successful teams, not failures, but teams that have gone out of business, all that kind of stuff. But it has kept you, I think, on the pulse of what American soccer is out there. So, when we are looking right now at the landscape of American soccer, as you mentioned, it's changed over the last 10 years. It's changed over the last 20 years. Where do you see it heading with all of these soccer wars with a Z and the understanding that, well, I would love to be able to snap my finger and it will all go away, but that's not going to happen?
Well, we always have these milestones, these monumental events that elevate the sport in this country, and maybe none of them will be as big as 2026 World Cup.
Right.
And that could really take the sport to yet another level. And this is becoming a true soccer nation. It was in the cities, it's now in the small cities, in the medium-sized cities, where we ultimately need to get is even small towns. But when you think of a town like Chattanooga, Tennessee, having not one, but 2 professional teams, Madison, Wisconsin, having a very successful professional team, 5,000 fans a game, that's a sport at another level. And then women's soccer, not just one professional league, but now another what looks like is going to be a great women's professional league and some lower division leagues. There's going to be a women's Open Cup. There has to be a women's Open Cup. And so the sport is growing in a positive way. And ultimately, I do think it's going to be unified in a way, maybe not unified as much as more clear. And there's room for multiple visions. You know, right now, I've just launched with Michael Collins, Open Soccer Alliance. It's about the open system of soccer as it's played in the rest of the world, because I think the United States is big enough that it can support a closed system vis-a-vis MLS and USL, and an open system, more like what NISA has tried to do, and what Open Soccer Alliance is trying to do. So the future, I think, will be more defined. At least that's my hope.
So you're saying that the open or the closed systems that exist right now continue on in their pathway, but there's an alternative pathway, a better mousetrap, if you will, being built over here. And while they might all succeed, who knows? Maybe the customer and the market decides ultimately as to who wants. That's the ideal, or the maybe not the ideal, but how you see it happening.
I think so, and I think there could be some compromises. I think we can, as we've seen, talk of promotion and relegation within the closed system. So it's not a true open system. You're not having intra
league promotion relegation.
Absolutely, and I think that's a positive. And so. It's not perfect, and no one ever said it has to be perfect. But where we are is amazing compared to when you started out.
Sure. Well, I mean, you are a champion out there for a lot of folks that I think about the game, or maybe think about the game being something different out there. Do you ever get frustrated or I guess even irritated, I don't know if that's the best word, with the negativity and the cynicism, or even, dare I say it, the whining that goes on out there? Because you've been incredibly positive in the way that you have framed things, but you understand that there's plenty of negativity and plenty of criticism out there, and some of it is absolutely fair going on, but it must be exhausting at a certain point. At least it gets exhausting sometimes for me.
There are those moments, absolutely. Okay. And what I get frustrated about when there's criticism without definition, it's just like, I don't like that. Okay, what about it don't you like? And then the other thing, then provide a solution. You know, Mom always said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And there's too much of that, and some of it is maybe identity politics within soccer, but criticism can be very positive. Discussion about these topics is really important. And I think without the discussion, as an example of promotion and relegation over the last decade, I don't know that USL or MLS would be having these conversations. And if MLS can morph the third division MLS Next Pro into 2 levels and do Pro Rel with that, that's a huge step forward.
You mentioned 2026, so let's end here, because there is this seminal moment coming out there. And I go around, and I'm part of it. I will raise my hand. We say, hey, it's coming. We got to capitalize on it. It's a great opportunity. Like I said, it's this moment that's going to live long. I will say that the world in which the landscape in which the world is coming to in 2026 is drastically and very different than 1994 or 1999 when it comes to the Women's World Cup. That's a good thing. We've progressed along. But how does it manifest in terms of actually harnessing the power that we all recognize is in 2026? Can you give me some examples of what you would do? I mean, again, if you had all the power and you were pressing buttons, how do we go about maximizing 2026 so that when the circus leaves town, it doesn't leave town with everything, and it leaves a legacy to continue on in a better way than we were?
Yeah, more and better teams. And it's it's important that we talk about the women as well. That's such a huge part of the growth of the sport in this country. So it's not just 2026, but there's also this age wave that's happened. You know, it used to be if you were under 30, you really didn't know what spectator soccer was about. And now I think it's creeping up to about 45 or 50. If you're under 45 or 50, you know soccer. You have a favorite team. And it's not just because you played the sport, but you may have played the FIFA video game, or you're following a team in England or Germany or Mexico. And now the World Cup will bring more of those mainstream sports or traditional sports fans onto the soccer ledger. While media is changing and fractionalizing and becoming more digital, there's this other battle going on. It's a battle for attention and eyeballs, and there's also a generation battle for attention for sports overall. Young people, I believe, don't care about watching sports like they did 30 years ago. There's other things. A lot of it is online, whether it's social media or gaming or movies online. And so soccer is developing within that framework. And coming out of the World Cup in 2026, soccer has an opportunity to be the winner of the traditional sports. NFL is going to be difficult to overpower. But baseball is aging out, and I'm a baseball fan. I know you are as well. And by 2027, I truly believe soccer interest in this country, from a spectator standpoint, will be greater than baseball interest. Now, that's the word soccer interest, spectator, not necessarily domestic soccer. And that's the biggest challenge, is to get domestic soccer, get American soccer fans watching American clubs. Because they're all watching Liverpool and Manchester United. Let's get them watching New York Red Bulls and Chicago House.
Got it. All right, listen. If you don't know Peter Wilt, all right, just know this. This is a man that you have been impacted with if you're in the soccer community out there. This is a man who has worked behind the scenes for decades now, pushing that boulder up that hill. It's gotten a little easier, but it's still a labor of love that we are all doing. I am so thankful that you are my friend. I'm so thankful that you are part of the soccer community for everything that you've done, everything that you will do. Thank you for coming on the State of the Union. Onward and upward with everything that you got going, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you, Lex.
Awesome.